it was announced that Scooter actually stepped down as the CEO of HYBE America. And I know that it's being spanned in different publications and different websites talking about how um, big hit that this is that he was fired, and that he cheated HYBE America, or HYBE, or Bang Shiyuk or whatever. And that could all be true. I don't know. And really don't care. But just based on the facts of this specific incident, um, this is not enough. This incident is not enough to prove that he, number one, he was fired, um, and that he was cheating HYBE or Bang Shiyuk. Okay. All right. 1 second. Okay. So that's he this is not enough to prove all of those things. It is, however, very telling of the rules and regulations, or at least the culture that HYBE is actually putting in place. So the truth of the matter is that the contract of all the CEOs of HYBE is 5 years. Now, for companies or for labels that they bought, that is negotiable, because especially if it was actually owned by somebody else when they bought it, for example, Source Music. But if it is a company that they started, they usually have a very short term for the CEO. So for Scooter Braun, his contract was 5 years, and that is the same length of the contract of other CEO of HYBE. So for example, the very first CEO of HYBE stepped down after 4 years. Okay, and it made the headlines, and this happened last year. So for example, the first global CEO of HYBE was there from 2021 all the way until 2024, after which he stepped down. He did not leave the company. He didn't leave the company. He only shifted to another department. Okay, so that's one. And he was the CEO of HYBE Global. Shin Young Jae, who became the CEO of Big Hit, took the seat 2020, and then 2024 he left. He's still with Big Hit. He's still with HYBE. Specifically, I think he's now assigned to Japan. But he stepped down as CEO of Big Hit, which is a very important, as you know, it's a private company. It's a very important label under HYBE. Okay, so second. Next is Shin Son Jung. Shin Son Jung is the one who took over the realms of Big Hit. She's now the CEO, and she started 2024. Now, her current contract is 2025, is also for 5 years. So she could stay longer, but at least her contract is 5 years, and that is the same for everybody else. Now, like for example, for Source Music, the CEO of that one remains to be the founder. As you know, Source Music, HYBE purchased Source Music when it was already an established company. So the structure of his contract is a little different, because that is his company and he retains 20% of that. Okay. Of the company. But the whole point is that the 5 year term for the contract of the CEOs, that's nothing out of the ordinary. And Scooter Braun was not an exemption. He also had a 5 year contract. And if you would remember, in many of the interviews, he specifically mentioned the reason he decided to let go of managing Justin Bieber is because he wanted to concentrate on his kids. He got divorced, and he said that a huge part of the reason for the divorce is his work. I don't know if you know how it is to be an agent. but you are on call 24/7. And he's not an agent of some celebrity, he's the agent of some of the biggest celebrities of Hollywood. He was the agent of Ariana Grande, of Justin Bieber, of Demi Lovato, of J Balvin, and these are some of the biggest names in Hollywood. If you are the agent of these people, you cannot miss a single phone call. And he credited that his dedication to his work as one of the biggest contributor to his divorce. And he said that he already lost his wife. He doesn't want to lose his kids, and he wanted to spend some time with his kids. And that is the reason he decided to take on the role of a CEO, because that's the time is a little bit more structured. Okay, so this was not a strange move for him. He also very, very specifically mentioned that his contract with HYBE is 5 years, right? Okay, so he was going to be there for 5 years. In one of the interviews, he did say he might extend a year. And he became the CEO of HYBE America when it was instituted, which was 2020. So that's 5 years. Actually, before that, yeah, it was 5 years. 2020 is when he became the CEO of HYBE America. So he came up to 5 years. Um, Now, it isn't true. A lot of the speculation is that Ithaca was overvalued and whatever. Sure, maybe it is overvalued. Maybe it should have been lower, but it is not true that the contract of Justin Bieber, Demi Lovato, Ariana Grande was included in the contract. It was not included in the sale from the very beginning. So that's not true. And that is public document. It was never in the contract when the sale happened. Also, Ariana Grande continues to work with Scooter Braun and with HYBE America. That's why she is on Weverse. She continues to be managed. Some of her businesses continue to be managed by HYBE America. Okay. Um, so so my only point is that a lot of this speculation about him being fired or whatever, we it is inconclusive just based on what we know. All we know is that his contract expired. So in fact, he already stayed a year more longer than everyone else, because they always seem to have their CEO exit at least a year before the expiration of contract. And there are several reasons for that. But that seems to be the cadence of HYBE. So they'll give you a 5-year contract. A year before that, they make you exit. And as I've said, there's a lot of reasons for that. But he actually finished his contract all the way until 5 years, 2025. So this is not something new. It was coming. They knew it was coming. The other thing is that he has a big project. I'm talking about Scooter Braun, and I think I can say this without whatever, but he has some AI stuff going on. So there are some businesses and investments that he is starting with AI, involving AI, and so I kind of already knew that at some point he was going to shift to that. So that's nothing surprising. He also is staying in HYBE. He remains to be. He owns like point 0.8. Like I think he's the fifth biggest entity, fifth biggest shareholder of HYBE. Fourth is BTS as a group. If you put together all the shares of BTS, them as a group, they are the fourth biggest shareholder. And then he is fifth as an entity. So he continues to be a shareholder. He's still in the board of directors, BOD. He's still in the board of directors. And he continues, as the release said, continues to be an advisor for Bang Shiyuk. So the connections that he was able to make for Bang Shiyuk, the introductions that he has made, all of those are valuable. And that's what they paid for. I think several months ago, I discussed how HYBE could have done it two ways. They could have planted seeds on HYBE in the US and just work their way to establishing their own network and growing their own network. And that would be 10 years, maybe, if they're really, really good, 20, if they are sort of just okay, 30 if they are bad. Essentially, what they bought Ithaca for is to shorten that 20-year process into a year, because all the connections that he has made, he's passed on to HYBE America. That was the reason for the sale, and that's really what you paid for, the time, which you can't you can't make it fast. You can't make time faster, right? So what they did was buy the connections which he had. All right. So it isn't about him getting fired, at least not based on what we know. What all we know is that his contract is 5 years, which he said very, very clearly in several interviews, and that he did say that he wants to spend his time with his kids. He also has, if you are in the AI industry, if you are reading in between my lines, you will know what I'm talking about. So if you are in the AI industry, you will know that he has been heavily investing in AI, and that he has some projects that are in the works in AI. So this was not surprising in the US. This was not a surprise. Everyone kind of knew he was headed towards that direction. Okay. My problem with SB was his proximity to Tanis and how generally disliked he is. The dislike is just happening in the fandom. But if you are in the business side of Hollywood, nobody, that's fine. It's all fine. He's not, he's no better and no worse than the next executive in Hollywood. No better, no, like a lot of the things that you, and I've talked about it so many times, right? I don't know how many more I can talk about, like how many more episodes I can devote to it. But a lot of the things that we hear about all of these celebrities, it's just like this, it's the fandoms that are fighting. You go into an executive room, if you go into a meeting with investors and with directors and with all the, there's just talking about business. It's all about business for them. So and then the other thing is that don't drag BTS into this. And all of this talk about like his proximity to BTS, like BTS can handle themselves, and they already have very well handled themselves in the last 10 years. If they don't know, if they are not smart enough to handle themselves, do you think they'll still be in good condition right now with what's happening in Hollywood? We already know what's happening in Hollywood, how brutal it is. But the mere fact that they are unaffected despite all of their success. I mean, when Jungkook was in the heat of his promotion, he was exposed to everything and he had access to everything. If he wanted to go that route, he could have. He didn't, right? He could have attended parties here, parties there, met with this person, met with this. And you don't think that many of these Hollywood personalities are actually dying to meet with him? And he still didn't. Think about that. Everyone has been talking about how Scooter Braun was actually helping him and blah, 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 and that he was in the picture, he was accompanying him, and yet he's still here. He served in the military, as committed as ever to BTS. You have not heard about him getting into this kind of a vice or being seen in this kind of a party or bar. I mean, come on. You have to give BTS the credit that they deserve. It's natural for us to worry, but at some point we're going to have to trust BTS. That's one. Second is that at some point we're going to have to face the fact that that not everybody is as bad as how the media wants them to be, or how the other fans want to paint them to be. It's one, he is no better and no worse than the next executive in Hollywood. Okay. Jungkook was busy was busy doing karaoke night with armies. Justin Bieber doesn't have the same support BTS has, and it's not just fair. This is why I couldn't care less about SB. I'm here for BTS and trust. Exactly. The only thing that it's I don't understand why a lot of a lot of people kept on dragging BTS into this whole Scooter Braun issue. Their label is Big Hit. That's their label, right? And it is a private label. And And Bang Shiok made a point to actually he made sure that it is a private label because he doesn't want BTS touched, and he was able to successfully do it. So HYBE America serves as their promotional, marketing, and production company when they are in the US. Just like Jin is doing right now, everyone else is going to be in BTS's beck and call. They will call the shots. They will do what they want. They can ask maybe for the opinion of other people. But if there's anything that we should have learned with Jin and with J Hope is that they control everything. Okay.